Parliament for Tamworth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to commend the member for Wagga Wagga, Joe McGurr, for bringing this really important bill to the attention of the Parliament and the Labor government. It is about the right to primary health care, and regional New South Wales has had consistently to fight for the right to primary health care. It's different in regional New South Wales than it is in metros, but we should not be discriminated because of our postcode. Regional communities deserve the highest quality of healthcare, but it is a constant fight every day, every week and every month to get the healthcare that regional New South Wales deserves. We've been standing by our communities as they fight for over the years to deliver those services, whether it's been an MPS in Manila or Werris Creek, or whether it's getting more doctors, more nurses, more specialists, and critically more midwives so people can access maternity services closer to home rather than having been forced to move from the town that they live and love to have their baby elsewhere, and then their baby is not born in the town that has had generations of that family in that particular location. We've fought for some of the equipment that provides those valuable services closer to home, which prevents our people from travelling very long distances to access those services. And the tyranny of distance in regional and rural New South Wales quite often is a barrier to accessing services. They, in some circumstances, will not take the healthcare option that has been recommended by their clinician because they can't leave their property. They have no one to care for their family, or they're unable to get transport, or they can't afford to spend a week, 10 days away from their location if they've got to travel very, very long distances. So that fight to provide those services closer to home, like a few years ago, at the Tamworth Base Hospital, we stood beside the community and fought for an MRI and was successful. And recently, a PET scan machine for Tamworth, providing those services closer to home so that people from Tamworth don't have to travel the 3.5, 4 hours to Newcastle. But think about further north in the New England, where they're coming from Moree, add another 3 hours on top of that. From Tenterfield down to Tamworth, add another 3.5 hours on top of that. In addition to those services, it is about accommodation as well, because when we do, and fortunate enough to get some workforce support in our region, it is about workforce accommodation. And we fought for that. It continues to be a challenge in Gunnedah, Tamworth and Corindai, and relieving those healthcare gaps and providing that accommodation. Health worker accommodation is also needed in Barraba for our paramedics who are doing a magnificent job, but there's no overnight accommodation for paramedics when they're on call. And at the moment, when nurses and doctors are overnighting in Barraba, they're in very camped, very close, cramped accommodation quarters that have been repurposed from something else, whether that was a storeroom or part of another part of the accommodation where they are. It's just not good enough in 2026 to be asking our health workers to be living in substandard accommodation. Another area we fought for to provide those services closer to home for Gunnedah, $53 million Gunnedah Hospital that's now built, but more work needs to be done because the government's left out clinical services like renal and chemotherapy. So that's part of the next mix, because people travelling from Gunnedah to Tamworth, 70k trip, and that is an hour. By the time then you get to receive that service, it's an hour or so, and then you've got to travel back, quite often in a more weakened, depleted state because of the treatment you've just received. You've got to take a support person with you. So these are the services we're now fighting for, to make sure that those renal and chemo services are provided in Gunnedah, providing services closer to home. It also relieves the pressure on Tamworth Base Hospital as well. And when you think about retrieval services, the Labor government has closed the helipad at Gunnedah, which provides much needed aero medical retrieval services provided by the Westpac Rescue Helicopter, they don't now land at the hospital. And for some reason, they closed that after many, many years of that service being provided. We're fighting to have the helipad return. Now, another one around mental health is critical. We were fortunate standing with the community, and in a few weeks, a $56 million brand new Tamworth mental health hospital will open in Tamworth, and that was fought for, funded by the Coalition. Now, it was a long fight to make the new 33-bed facility a reality. It will be a modern clinical and caring facility that will service adults and children. But there's more work to do on that because the existing mental health facility will become vacant. This is a 25-bed functioning mental health hospital that we want, the community wants, to be turned into a drug and alcohol detoxification unit. So we are now fighting again with another group that will lead a petition which will be launched in this Parliament very, very soon to repurpose the old mental health facility into a drug and alcohol detoxification unit, much needed for not only Tamworth, but for the rest of the New England as well. So that's another fight on our hands. So we're looking forward to that fight, and we want our fair share of the $157 million drug and alcohol funding that was given to the government. We want our fair share in our community. So these are the projects that we'll continue to fight for. Doctors, nurses, midwives, allied health professionals, and other health services right across our region. Just recently, Nundle CWA, I was down there to celebrate 80 years of the CWA. They were instrumental in providing healthcare services and early childhood services way back when. You know, when you go back 80 to 100 years, they were instrumental. The beautiful town of Nundle has decreasing health services because of the difficulty getting a doctor now to travel to Nundle to be able to provide those services. So we're going to have that fight, to get the doctors back on a regular basis to Nundle, small villages like Nundle, and a community nurse and allied health services for that facility. The story goes on and on and on, but we've got to continue to fight. Again, we should not be discriminated by our postcode. And Wee Waa Hospital, we've heard a lot about that since May 2023. Wee Waa Hospital has been operating on temporarily reduced hours from 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Now, the local supermarket is open longer than that. The local supermarket is open longer than the Wee Waa Hospital. So what does the community do? What are they expected to do? Well, don't worry about that. It's rural and regional New South Wales. If we ignore it, the problem will go away. Well, I'm telling the Labor government, it won't. It will not go away. We will continue to fight for our fair share and continue to fight for the right to primary health care. Now, what happens in Wee Waa? They've got to travel to Narrabri. Again, the tyranny of distance. And quite often, if someone suffers a farm injury, they'll do it themselves. They'll fix it themselves. They'll go, oh, well, this is too hard to get to where I've got to get to, so I'll just make up my own medical assessment and I'll Dr. Google and then I'll stitch myself back up and I'll get back on the farm. What if it's a snake bite? What if it's something critical, that is time critical, where minutes matter? Where you need the Westpac Rescue Helicopter. Oh no, it can't land in Gunnedah anymore. It can't land close to where you need it. So again, don't worry about it. We'll push all the money into the cities. So, Mr. Speaker, it's not good enough. The government should be throwing everything at rural and regional health services to provide the services we want closer to home, not discriminated because of our postcode. So there's a lot of work to do, a lot of advocacy and a lot of conversations, and we will continue to stand by our communities because we have a right. We have a right to primary health care in rural and regional New South Wales. And healthcare can be improved if the government just lifted its head above the parapet and went, you know what, they need some help. They need some help. And they're going to pay attention to rural and regional New South Wales like they should. So this bill requires the government to come to the table, work with those rural and regional communities, because rural and regional communities have the right to primary health care, and I commend the member for Wagga Wagga, a highly respected clinician in his own right, in his own community, and knows firsthand what it's like on the front line to go without. And when you go without, that drives your passion to go harder. The government should not ignore this and should work with the member for Wagga Wagga, should work with members of this parliament to provide the very best primary health care to one and all.
I thank the member.